Hello and welcome. You're watching the SABC News channel, independent and impartial. I'm Peter Ndoro and you're watching The Globe. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Now, Lesotho's Prime Minister, Dr. Moeketsi Majoro, has officially been in office for just over 100 days now. His transition from Minister of Finance to Prime Minister has brought some stability to the Mountain Kingdom. And tonight on The Globe, we're joined by Dr. Majoro to discuss a range of issues, particularly his 100 days at the helm of the leadership of the country. Your Excellency, thank you so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much, Peter.
All right, so it's been 100 days. It's quite a different task from the job of Finance Minister. How has it been?
Well, when I was Finance Minister, I lost a lot of hair. So it's growing back. So it kind of tells you what is happening. I think the job has changed completely, but it's been very interesting. The challenges are enormous, but I have a team that is equal to the challenges. We have been given reins to a country that has all but lost faith in its political system, that has given up in any politicians as ever honoring any of the commitments we politicians make. So we have had to deal with governing a country with people that absolutely already have no interest or no confidence in their own government. So one of the first tasks has been to think what we needed to do to restore some faith. And so it's been about 120 days now of working very hard to restore some faith in any government, in the government of Lesotho. I don't know when we will ultimately secure that permanent good faith in government, but we are working on it. We have tasks, we have deliverables that were delayed, and in the 2 years that we have, there isn't much time, and our task is take what is on the table and deliver as much as we can. And believe me, I'm running around. My team is running all over the country trying to see how we fix things. So it's been fascinating. We are doing things innovatively. We are looking at things quite differently than we have done in the past. We are working together as groups in cabinet, and we brought in some additional skills, some analytical capacity that we are using now. So yeah, it's challenging, but we are also being innovative.
All right, let's talk about some of those challenges. And you brought up the idea of trying to bring faith back into politics. But you've said yourself that 2 days into the job, you were already under pressure from people trying to topple your government. Is the coalition holding, Mr. Prime Minister?
The coalition is holding. There's always threats to any coalition in Lesotho. There's always groups that are dissatisfied and will always try to unseat whatever coalition is in power. We are seeing that. As I said, it took just 2 days coming into the office, and then it started, and it's been the same. But my thinking is this: I can't spend time looking back over my shoulder. I have a responsibility to try to deliver some of the services that we promised our people, and that's what I'm trying to do. But I cannot ignore that on a daily basis, people are organizing, people are having meetings several times a week, preparing for our overthrow. But as I say,
why
we
has
can't dwell on that.
why has this country had so much instability for so long? It's not the biggest country on the continent, and yet you have more than your fair share of headlines.
We do, yeah, well, you know, that's how people get to know us. But more seriously, to respond to your question, it's been a country with endemic conflict, going back, frankly, to 1970, and having an undemocratic government, but at least civilian government, and then a military government. And so conflicts within our political system has always been endemic. And for as long as there was political instability, there was conflict. Politicians just have never had the time to put together plans that can change and create prosperity for Lesotho. For so long as Lesotho is poor, then you don't have enough pie to go around. And so there must always be jostling for power, because political power is the shortest route to taxpayer-funded benefits. In an economy, in a country with an economy that is a very puny and tiny private sector, government is at the center of all economic activity. So in a way, you can link the incessant and persistent instability to a vicious cycle where everybody fights to come into the political system. But the people that are coming in tend to be the people that are more desperate and are more willing to fight to come in. But so it brings in competencies that are not directed to actually changing the economic landscape of a country. It's more people who are coming in to see what whether they can make a living out of a political system. But that same competence should indicate that it's not the competence that we need to put forward the proper plans, to put forward and to hold policy together to support and foster private sector investment. So you have a vicious cycle where, because the economy is poor, then you get the kind of politicians that are not going to be able to do anything about the economy. So it is a vicious cycle that has haunted this country for 54 years.
And you're the guy in charge
and
now.
At some point, this must break. This cycle must break. And I hope, even in the 20 months that we got, I hope we'll be able to break this vicious cycle and put Lesotho on a different path than it's been in the last 54 years.
One of those things is going to be the influence of the military, sometimes the police. Has that changed under your leadership in the 100 days? Or is it something that you still have to try and balance?
Well, it's too early to tell. It's early days, really. But the security forces, frankly, have had enough of civilian political authorities interfering in their ranks. And if you look back at all the incidences of civil conflict, of political conflict, it was always political authorities, political principals, and the members of the security forces. But whenever the situation changes, those who have had to pay the price are only members from the security forces, and political principals have always escaped sanction. But I think it has got to a point now where the security forces are saying, it's too much. We can't continue to support you politicians for your nefarious ambitions. Yet when there is time for accounting for our actions, is always the security forces. The army is particularly stable now. There are actions within the police services that I'm dealing with at the moment. I have my colleagues working on understanding the problem and possible solutions. But I think in the police, it's something that we'll be able to work with the police, with the different groups within the police, to find a final solution. So there is some risk, but it's not as much as it was back in 2013, 2014. That was a horrifying situation where the different forces were explicitly aligned to different political groups. But it's not like that now. And I spent time with the leadership of the security forces. And when I say, frankly, they have had enough, they have had enough, and they would like to see some stability for the benefit of the Basotho people.
Speaking
the
of...
environment and the mood is quite good there at the moment, particularly if you are thinking of the Lesotho Defense Force. And as I said, we need to do a little bit more work with the police. But in my discussion with them, I've been clear that we have had enough troubles. We need to work for the Basotho people who are paying us, and that the instability is not going to benefit the police or the politicians or the public at large. So I hope we are all listening. I am all hands on deck to try to resolve the issues that I see in the police and possibly the Lesotho Correctional Services.
All right, let's talk about the Basotho people, because through all of this, they have bread and butter issues that they need to deal with every single day. Unemployment, COVID-19, and this political instability that you've been talking about. But most importantly, the economy. And I just wonder, as someone that was finance minister, now prime minister, having to try and revive the economy in a global environment that's been disrupted by COVID-19, this must be one of the most difficult tasks on your in-tray.
The challenges are enormous. On the one hand, we know exactly what we must do. On the other, we don't have enough resources to do that. We inherit an economy without ample reserves. Look, we were already undergoing very difficult economic and financial circumstances. And we come out of that and walk straight into COVID-19. In 2019, we have a drought. Some 700,000 people to feed or augment their feed. Add COVID-19. We go on a lockdown quite early in March, but that destroys jobs, takes away livelihoods. So you add over the over the 700,000 people that were already needing food assistance, add another 500,000, so 1.2 million that needs support. And in the middle of that, you have to try to prevent a complete collapse of business. Not only that, then you have to help the business restart as we gradually restart. And because the economy has been locked out, we are not collecting any taxes. We're not collecting that much taxes. And so imagine that kind of scenario.
So what's the plan?
We have not been short of ideas, and we have not been short of commitment, and various entrepreneurs and businesses wishing to lend a hand. It's a cropping season now. We have asked as many farmers as possible to plant their fields and grow food. We have asked large farmers to expand the areas that they plan to cultivate this year. We will seek some financial assistance to ensure that our food security program succeeds, our interventions for COVID-19 succeeds, our intervention in expanding industry succeeds. I must tell you that notwithstanding the COVID-19 difficulties, both in South Africa and the US, these are the two largest markets that we have, notwithstanding the losses of markets, we have continuing interest by new investors and industry to expand. The US market has collapsed much more than the South African market for us. So we are hoping to restore some reasonable amount of exports going to South Africa in the coming months. And with the US coming on stream later on, possibly late 2021, we have suffered considerably from that market. But the South African market is very big for us, and we need to focus more on producing goods for the South African market. We have a lot of interest from industry right now, and we are working to ensure that investments that are in our pipeline can proceed to investment stage, and so that some jobs can begin to come through. So we are working hard at this.
All right, Mr. Prime Minister, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about your relationship with South Africa and what the plan is going forward, especially when it comes to easing the movement of goods and people between the two borders. Stay with us. How much time to the end, all of this, when we come back, so that I can pace myself? Okay, for everything. All right. No, not necessarily. I think let's contain it. Welcome back. You're still watching The Globe on the SABC News channel, and we're in conversation with the Prime Minister of Lesotho, Dr. Moeketsi Majoro, who's just completed 100 days in office. Mr. Prime Minister, just before the break, we started to talk about the economy, and much of that, because you are completely surrounded by South Africa, is dependent on your relationship with South Africa and the movement of people and goods in and out of your country and into South Africa. Let's talk a little bit about that, because Basotho have complained that they haven't always been treated fairly when it comes to movement of people.
Indeed, that is correct. And the complaint is long established, well substantiated. Our approach has been that we can live in sustained conflict between the political authorities of the two countries. And so you may recall that early in our term, I drove to Pretoria to see President Ramaphosa, and amongst our agreements was to look at trading across borders, movement of people across borders. I'm happy to report that we agreed to set up committees and clusters of ministers to look at the issues around cooperation on COVID-19, trading between the two countries, and movement of people between the two countries. As I speak, there are committees of officials that are meeting, talking about resolving some of the problems that we encounter. I must share with you that Lesotho and South Africa are in a unique neighborly situation. Our neighbor, we have only one neighbor, South Africa. Basotho people are the same as South African people. We have more Basotho actually in South Africa than we have in Lesotho. So there's a little bit of disingenuity in cultivating an idea that we are different people. We are not different people. There's also a little bit of disingenuity in considering that we have, that the formal borders that we have actually separate our people. They don't separate. They keep on engaging with each other. Rarely do they recognize some of the borders that we have, and our people cross daily in and out. Our situation is different from what South Africa may experience with Zimbabwe or Namibia or Botswana. We have the same people speaking the same language, engaging with each other
Prime
on
Minister,
a daily basis.
We're running out of time, so I do want us to jump to another issue, which has been, I saw recently, was of concern to you as well. The arrest of soldiers and border officials recently, and how your court system seemed to be blocking or not helping a political solution that you had hoped would have played out. And then also the stock theft between South Africa and Lesotho. How do you manage this? Because these kinds of things don't help relationships between neighbors.
No, they don't. The incidence of stock theft between the two countries is complicating the relationships that we are trying to build between the two countries. And the involvement of organized crime across the two countries is unhelpful. Organized crime is one of the issues we discussed with the president. And I hope we can quickly get our ministers to propose some solutions to this. So whatever we try to achieve in terms of the wider relationship and the importance of that relationship, it will always be complicated by cross-border and organized crime incidences between the two countries. We have not tried to achieve political solutions. We recognized that the incidences were legal incidences, and we respect what courts are going to do. The only thing that we have been trying to achieve is that people should be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Extended incarceration without clear reasons is difficult to understand in the context of that sacrosanct principle of innocent until proven guilty. We had soldiers incarcerated in Lesotho, South African soldiers incarcerated in Lesotho. We always understood that they would have to come into Lesotho to answer to the charges, and that is the commitment that we have from the South African authorities. And so the cases have not been struck off from the record. But what we have done is we have exercised the principle of innocent until proven guilty, and our courts provided bail. But we are puzzled at the delays and the extensions in Matatiele and the different groups that emerge from time to time to delay a decision that would have upheld the principle of innocent until proven guilty.
Okay. Mr.
So we are still waiting with bated breath, and we are
hopeful
really
that
now
you'll get a good
wondering whether the principle of separation of powers, whether the different arms of state do not work in the same direction to uphold widely held and globally held principles.
Mr. Prime Minister, unfortunately, we've run out of time. We're going to have to leave it there, but we wish you the best of luck in the next 100 days, and hopefully things will turn around on all fronts for you. And hopefully in 2 years' time, we'll be having another chat and you'll be able to say, this is what you've been able to achieve. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Mr. Prime Minister.
I hope so. Thank you very much for hosting me tonight.
Good, thank you. Good night. That was the Prime Minister of Lesotho, Dr. Moeketsi Majoro, speaking to us about his first 100 days in office. And they've certainly not been without their challenges, but he seems to be taking it all on the chin, and he's optimistic that a new level of stability is upon Lesotho. He's going to focus on the issues at hand and the matters that matters to the people the most. And yeah, we wish him the best of luck. All right, you're watching The Globe on the SABC News channel, and we'll have more for you right after this. Stay with us.
And then when you talk to the Skype, remember the opening will be on the jeep.
Yeah.
After the opening, let's see the headlines on the jeep, and then you take your camera here.
Okay.
Yeah. When you talk to your Skype, you're just going to put the Skype here.
Okay. All right. Excellent.
So all this, you don't need so I need the camera here. I need your camera right here. So here's Peter's camera here. For the store.
All right. So I follow the jib as I say hello, blah, 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 blah. And then when we get to the